Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of the Fishing Teacher. And man, I really appreciate you guys checking the video out and hanging with me for a little bit. Always grateful for that. And guys, today we're going to be talking about fishing a spinnerbait in the summertime of the year. There's one technique that's been really productive for me all through the summer, one specific spinnerbait. So I'm going to clue you guys in on that. Hopefully it'll add up some good fish for you guys over the next probably 2 or 3 months out there. Now, spinnerbaits, in the most part, guys, they're not really known as a great summertime lure. It's like they catch fish in the summertime, and depending upon the type of lake that you're fishing, they can be pretty, decent. But overall, a spinnerbait is more considered a springtime and a fall time lure. Just like there's more of a diversity of options as far as to fish it. So overall, in the summertime of the year, I don't fish a spinnerbait very much at all, but I do fish it one way. There's one technique that I use for summertime spinnerbait fishing I want to share with you guys. Now, first of all, before I get into it, let's talk about the spinnerbait because it's really key. The spinnerbait that I use, guys, it has to be a finesse spinnerbait for this technique to work, and this is the Megabass SV3 spinnerbait. It's got small willow leaf blades on it. It's got the nice fish head design, a nice nano-coated hook on it, small profile spinnerbait. And guys, I'll link the spinnerbait into my Tackle Warehouse description if you guys like to pick up a couple. But this specific spinnerbait is geared for the technique that we're going to talk about because the SV3 with the small willow leaves on here, it's designed to be fished fast. This is what I call a burning spinnerbait, where you can fish it fast through the water column and it won't roll or turn to the side. It stays perfectly true and it creates an image of a fleeing bait fish. Is really good. So here's what the deal is, what you have to have, the whole combination of it. This is what I fish around boat docks in the summertime of the year, and it has to be some type of a floating dock, like a residential floating dock or some type of a marina or commercial dock. Prime example would be you guys that fish Lake Lanier. You know how the Lake Lanier's got those floating docks. Here in Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri, we've got a bunch of them. If your lake that you fish does not have a lot of residential floating docks, there's usually always a commercial dock that you can fish this technique on too. And as well, on those commercial docks and like around the marinas, there's usually like a break wall or some type of a tire reef in front of those. And you can also use this technique on that deal too. So in order for this to work, okay, first of all, you have to have the floating boat docks or the docks that, have floats on them. Then you have to have water visibility of anywhere between, say, 6 inches to maybe 2 foot at the most. So 6 inch visibility, 6 inches to 2 foot is the key water depth or key water visibility. And that's what you have to have. This will not work in conditions where you have really clear water this time of year, with the exception of one thing I'll talk about here in a second. Now, basically, here's why this thing works really good in the summertime. In the summertime of the year, if you've ever walked on a boat dock, you can look down the water and you can see there's algae and plankton growing on the floats of the dock, on the sides, and there's always usually perch around there. There's bluegill perch, sometimes you'll see different minnows, different type of fish, and there's a percentage of the bass in the summertime that know that, and they live on those docks too. And when they get hungry, they could go up and grab a bluegill or a minnow or whatever that's feeding on the plankton. But if you have that set of conditions, by taking this Megabass SV3 spinnerbait, throwing it down the sides, like down both sides of the dock, as close as you can get to the dock. Not if you get like a foot away from it, you'll never get a bite. You need to get within inches of the dock. Throw it down the front of the dock, throw it down the sides, and just reel it where it's just underneath the styrofoam, which is usually about 1.5 feet or 2 feet down. And those fish, they suspend underneath that float on there, and by bringing the spinnerbait down the side and the front of that dock, they'll ambush it and nail this thing. It's a technique, guys, that in the summertime I've caught 50 and 60 fish a day doing it. You can catch a lot of numbers of fish on there by triggering them on this. Normally I'm fishing it just on like 15 or 20 pound test Seagar and Vizex line. I'll throw it out there and I'll just reel it with like a medium stop and go retrieve. You don't ever want to reel just a spinnerbait straight through the water. Always use a stop and go retrieve on it to keep it like that. Guys, they will hammer it. Now, you can catch, if the water visibility, especially if that water visibility is down around 12 inches, you can catch them all around the dock. You can catch them on the sides and the front. Another favorite technique I like to do with the spinnerbait is I'll put it on a flipping stick and I'll flip it and pitch it in the slips. Even if there's boats in there that has that much of a opening between the dock and the boat, flip that spinnerbait in that shady areas and just slow roll it through there. And catch a bunch of fish doing that. Now, it will work in clear water also in certain conditions, early and late in the day, or if you have a shade line. So say, for example, you have a floating dock where you've got 4 to 5 foot of water visibility. A lot of times, if you have a little bit of wind hitting that dock and part of the dock is throwing off some shade, so let's say, for example, you got 4 foot of visibility and there's the way the sun angle is, one side of the dock, you've got a shade line of maybe 2 or 3 feet. You can take the spinnerbait and burn it. You can throw it out there and just burn it like an inch under the surface. Don't let it go under the floats. Burn it like an inch under the surface, and a lot of times those fish will be suspended in that shade there and they'll come up and hammer it in that clear water. But anyway, guys, it's one of my favorite techniques. I also use a jerk bait in the same scenario sometimes, but the spinnerbait will definitely catch them, especially if the water's a little bit more off-colored. And again, the spinnerbait size is critical. These little finessey spinnerbaits, small willy blades. Like I said, I'll put it in the description of the video if you guys want to try one. But give it a try, man. Like right now, from now until September, it's going to be a deal. I can promise you guys, you'll get some bites on it, especially if you have a lake that has some spotted bass and largemouth in it. It does good in either or, but if there's spotted bass in it, they really, really bite it pretty good. So hope it helps you guys catch a few. We'll talk later.